Hello and welcome from my heart to yours. What a blessing for us to be able to meet together. And so, two announcements. We have our next in-person retreat, which will be in Washington State in the Cedro-Woolley area, January 15th through the 18th. It'll be a Thursday through Sunday retreat. And if you'd like details, please email me and I will get the details out to you this week. So this will be a retreat, a very small in-person retreat, 15 people about, maybe a couple more or a couple less, sometimes. And it'll be a very small, intimate retreat. And it'll be at a cabin in the woods, and there'll be a lot of sharing and cooking and taking care of things together, and lots of land to walk on and hike. And what I love about winter retreats is, well, winter is a great time to meditate. When there's so much darkness and the days are short, especially in the Pacific Northwest, sometimes it can be a little bit rainy, and we spend this time, together meditating and in this space of depth. And then secondly, on the list is we have a retreat coming up, a spiritual awakening symposium at the Shivananda Ashram in the Bahamas, March 29th through April 2nd. And this will be the opposite. Being in the darkness will be in the light this coming spring. So I hope you can make one or both. And I'll let you know if another or when the next online retreat possibility comes up for those of you in far off destinations. So anyways, okay. Well, let's start tonight by shutting down our eyes and allowing ourselves to really ask, why am I here? What is it that I'm looking for on the spiritual path? And so we're breathing in and breathing out, and opening ourselves to our highest intention. As we breathe, as we feel, let us deepen in the truth. And we do not find the truth in our thinking mind. We find the truth deep in our heart. And so let us breathe here fully in the lower abdomen. Settling in. To this quiet, radiant depth of being. And so sometimes on the surface of the hara, we can have feelings of fear or confusion. But as we cut through it and go right into the center of the hara, you'll notice this depth. a depth of supreme, silent radiance. The very ground of being. And from this space, I invite you to ask, well, who is it that I am? And what is it that I'm wanting here in this world, on this spiritual path? Who is it that you are? As you open to the quiet depth of Buddha nature. And so we are breathing in and breathing out, not listening to the chaos, the confusion, of the human egoic mind. But we're staying rooted in our depth. And so from this perspective, I invite you to see, I invite you to recognize that you are a goddess. You are a Buddha. You are not this mind. You are not this personality. These things were given to you. You are the light. You are the light. And so with every breath, you're softening and opening. With every breath, we are remembering why we are here on planet Earth. So with full attention, full awareness, in the hara, I invite you to recognize your strength, your power, your radiance, and allowing this depth of being, inviting this depth of being to embrace all of your human self. As we breathe in and breathe out. knowing who you are. And why you are here. And so, with that, let us gently open our eyes, and I welcome you into the space of satsang. And I'm going to invite you to type in the chat and tell me why you're here. What is it that you're wanting? What is it that you're looking for? And I'll, share a little bit, and then we'll get into you and your experience, your path. Your path. Okay. I like what Justina says right out of the gates. I am here for God. Okay, let's all just stop for a moment. I just invited you to write something, but I'm going to invite us to stop. And let us check in. Is our crown chakra open? Is our third eye open? Is our throat open? Is our heart open? Is our solar plexus open? We've been meditating on the heart better be open. Is our root open? The chakras are the doorway to the divine. To the divine. And so we open ourselves energetically. And as we do so, I invite you to notice this grace pouring down into the room right here, right now. I invite you to feel the presence of God. And so as I sit down, before I get ready to teach, I sit down and I do this. And then right away, I feel this divine radiance pouring into me. In fact, I've done this so much that normally I'll be sitting at the dinner table, actually, and I'll just be eating dinner, with my family, and the divine will start to pour down into me, and I'll start to feel this, just gentle sense of disorienting grace, this radiance. And I say, oh, yeah, it's Sunday night. Sunday night. Satsang is a couple hours away. And so I am here for God. Justina is here for God. And so let us welcome God. Let us welcome God. Let us feel God. Let us welcome God. And for those of you who, aren't accustomed to this, like if we're a good Buddhist, we can feel God in this space of peace, this space of silence. We can feel God as the radiance and the love that's awakening in our heart. We can feel God as that which is awake and aware, the light of awareness. And what is that? Well, that is God. And sometimes God will show up to us, as Mary, who I love so much. Sometimes God will show up as Shiva. And so God can show up in many different ways, many different forms. And let us be open. Let us be receptive. And I invite you just in every moment of your path, I to ask this question, is God here? Now, we are taught in Sunday school, if we went, that God is omnipresent. We're also taught, by Lord Jesus, that the kingdom of heaven is here, but nobody sees it. And they don't see it because they're lost bowing before a false God, like the God of fear. The God of fear. Very hard to see God. If we're saying, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I'm going to die, I'm going to die, I'm going to die. It's a funny thing to say, oh my God, oh my God. You think you might say that if you were seeing God, but normally we say that when there's something that we don't like or something we fear. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. But God is here whether we are having a wonderful day or a terrible day. The question is are we open and receptive? Are we open and receptive? Is the door of our consciousness awake and aware to that which is good and true and beautiful? Or is the door of our consciousness shut? Because I had a lot of people come after me after the election. They didn't like the way they thought the spiritual teacher voted. I'm not sure how I voted, but there's certain people who think I voted a certain way and they shut their heart to me. We might shut our heart to our neighbor. Back with during COVID-19, there were the people who had the shots and the people who did not have them. And I can remember a lot of families being torn apart by this, being torn apart. But with God, we are open to God because God is good. And we don't put something between us and God. We don't put anything. And if you do, you'll just feel a blankness, a deadness, a wall, a heaviness. You'll feel that there's something off, something not right. Or when we choose to open, you feel this radiance. You feel this love. You feel this peace and this depth. So thank you, Justina, for reminding us why we're here. Justina writes, I'm so heartbroken from hearing okay, excuse me. I have to really I have to pay attention here in the comments. I'm reading them backwards. Blair writes, today I saw some baby bears on the side of the road that got hit by cars. Can we pray for them? Let's do it. Let's do it. And so this grace that's flowing down through us, let this grace flow. These little baby bears that were hit on the road. Oh, Heavenly Mother, oh, Heavenly Mary, will you swiftly, she's saying yes, swiftly receive these little babies into heaven? Yes, 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 yes. Will you reunite them with their mama? Will you reunite them with their heavenly family? Will you fill them with love? Will you receive them fully? Will you bless the mother if she survived? Bless her and be with her during this time of suffering. Will you ease her pain and her heartache? And will you bless our roads? You help the people on the roads to drive safely so that animals can live with humans unharmed by this needless slaughter. But right now, we especially ask you to bless these beings, flooding them with love, reuniting them with Mama energy. Okay, and so she'll take over from here. Okay, beautiful, beautiful. Terry is saying the question is, why are we here? Why are we here at Satsang? What is it that we are looking for on the path? A lot of people just kind of float on the spiritual path. And it is very important for us to have an intention. My intention, just since I was young, is I want to be free. Free. I don't want to be enslaved by my mind, by my conditioning, by my culture, by my parents, by the outside world, by the inner forces of the psyche or the unconscious. And so this intention has guided my path. It has helped me to value awakening. And when you know what you want, when you know what you value, when every moment you can ask a question. Am I honoring this? Am I walking in the direction of this higher truth? Or am I hanging out watching The Bachelor? Because there's a lot of people right now hanging out watching The Bachelor. I'm going to tell you all a funny story, and you all can write, some others can write what you want. You're on the path. I want to tell you this funny thing that happened to me last night. So my daughter asked, Daddy, can I have a sleepover? Can I have a friend sleepover? And I said, sure. And she said, okay, but my friend is, she's at her mother's house and it's her mother's birthday. And I was like, okay, so what are we going to do here? And she said, well, can we go over to the birthday party and hang out for an hour or so? And then can we come back to our home? And I said, okay. And so I went to the birthday party, and this was a birthday party with a bunch of cult members. And let me tell you about the cult that I walked into. It was the cult of muscles. This was the CrossFit cult. Okay, just so we're crystal clear about what we're talking about here. The CrossFit cult. And, everyone was supposed to wear a flannel shirt. I pulled that off. My two ladies pulled that off. We showed up with our flannel shirts on. But there were people wearing extra small, extra tight flannel shirts so that they could show off their muscles. So they could show off their muscles. And I thought this was crazy. This was crazy. And, I asked the people a question. I said, well, how do you know, so-and-so? That's whose birthday it was. And they said, we know her from the gym. And I'm looking at these people and I'm like, well, which gym? Like which gym? Because I go to a different gym. I go to the martial arts gym, and they all go to the CrossFit gym. And so I asked them a question. I said, who do you think is tougher, the CrossFit people or the jiu-jitsu people? And this woman, she sat there and she took this question in very seriously, very earnestly. And she was, getting ready to answer. And I was like, lady, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding here. I'm just messing around. But you see that in this world, there are people who value muscles and they want to have big muscles. There's people all over the internet who have pictures of their muscles. There's some people who are ab muscle people, some are bicep muscle people. Some people, they really like to show off their rear end on the internet. And it's an insane thing, but this is what they value. And listen, I'm a big fan of being fit. Absolutely. But I'm a much bigger fan of God. I'm a much bigger fan of the truth. Now, I have friends that get up at 5 a.m. and they get up at 5 a.m. so they can go to CrossFit and get ripped. And get ripped. And that's their thing. And then they might go at 6 p.m. after work. So they'll go before work and after work. And they value muscles. You know, some people here on planet Earth, they value dinero. Like money is their thing. But for us, it's God. It's God. I almost got thrown out of the party because there were some girls who showed up and they had their flannel shirts on and then they took them off so they could just have their tank top with their muscles out. And it is November in Colorado and it's not hot. It's not freezing either, but it's not tank top weather. It's not tank top weather. All right, and it was nighttime. But these girls really wanted to show that they were the biggest, toughest girls at the party. And humans are crazy. Humans are crazy. Sometimes when we look out at the world, it's important to remember that most humans are crazy. I was reading this psychology book the other day, and this guy had his like 8 principles for life. His number one principle, which I didn't like, but this is what he said. He said, people are broken. I was like, dang. But my teacher started off with, everyone is God. All is God. That's where my teacher starts off. All is God, you know, but this guy started off with, people are broken. And then he said, people are also confused. I say, okay, like I see a lot of this. And he said, people wear masks. And I say, I can see this. And then he says, people lie about wearing their masks. They wear a mask, but they act like they're not. Like they're not. And he said, people lie. I was like, dang, this is getting a little depressing. And I just kept adding, and people are God. And people are God. And people are God. And this is why the world is so confusing. It's because people are such a mix of divinity and confusion and of chaos and of wearing masks. And they have these values. Some people value, I need to be first. I need to be right. I'm the best. Some people value being the worst, which is an insane way to live. I mean, I used to value this thing of like, I need to be last. You know, like that was some false spiritual thing, you know, that took me a long time to get over. I certainly had unworthiness issues. But when we know what our values are, then we don't have to be led by our unconscious values. Because we might think in our heart, like say if we're broke, we might say, I should value money. I want to value money and being responsible and taking care of myself, you know, and having a sustainable income. I'm going to value this. But if we have an inner saboteur within us, the saboteur will find a value that is unconscious. Like, I'm not good enough. And we'll find that when we're walking in the direction of getting that job, we go over here somewhere. We go over here and we get lost in sabotaging energy, chaotic energy, confused energy, manipulative energy. And it's a crazy thing, this world. But when you know what your values are, when you set your intention, and you put your thoughts and words and actions behind it, your life becomes clear, even if there's chaos all around you. Your life becomes clear. And so I've said this many times. It's so important for us to know who we are and to know what our life is about. What is my life about? Sometimes people show up on the spiritual path and they say, I just want to feel better. And I have to say something like, would you be willing to feel worse temporarily in order to heal, which will lead to long-term you feeling more sane, more peaceful, and yes, better? You say, no, I just want to feel better now. It's like, okay, okay. I just want to feel better now. And that's the thing about the ego. It just wants to have its way now. I want to have my way now. In the olden days, when we went to the monastery, sometimes the abbot would just make us wait outside that door. Maybe a couple weeks, a couple months, inviting us to reflect upon how much do you want this? How much do you want it? My teacher, he used to do this thing. If anyone new came, he said, I'm going to ask for a commitment from you. So they could come for one class, but then right away he'd say, listen, if you want to come back, you have to come every time, every Wednesday. And our classes were 3 hours, at least. At least. They were really long classes. And then, if you pass that test, he'd say, okay, and I want you to come Sunday. So 3 hours on Wednesday, 3 hours on Sunday. And then Sunday might be followed by a day of work on the land. And you see, well, a lot of people are like, I'm not sure I want to give up my Sunday. Wednesday's one thing, but to give up my Sunday the whole day, that's a big commitment. A big commitment. But again, on the path, knowing who we are and what we want, it gives us this guiding light. This guiding light. Again, whether we're having a good day or a bad day. If we just want to feel better, it's like, eat some ice cream. You'll probably feel better in the short term, in the next 15 minutes, but you might feel worse. You might feel worse later on. That's the thing with the ego, is short-term happiness, long-term worse. In the world of spirituality, we have to be willing to really look and say, I'm willing to say no to short-term happiness. And yes to long-term truth. Yes to freedom. Freedom is not dependent upon how we feel. One of the greatest misconceptions in the world of spirituality. So anyways, let's hear from Terry. I want to see through that which wanting anything different from what I already know I am. That's a mouthful. I want to see through that which wanting anything different from what I already know I am. Yeah. I want to see through the falsehood. Yeah, this is good. This is good. I want the truth. God's will as this experience, I suppose. Terry, I can't read this. This is really hard for me to read. I want to see through that which wanting anything different from what I already know I am, comma, God's will, comma, as this experience. I suppose that includes that which wants. Exclamation. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Can we be happy with this moment? How about that? How about that? Can we be at peace with this moment? Can we accept this moment? Can we accept this moment? And so let's play along with Terry. Everyone, I want you to feel into your body. I want you to see if there's something here that you're having trouble accepting. And can we more fully open to this? Can we lean into this? Can we include this truth that all is God? Okay, beautiful, Terry. Beautiful. Lauren, I am here for the truth. It's a good thing to be here for. A good thing. When I love it when we say, I'm here for the truth, that helps us to cut through the falsehood. It helps us cut through the nonsense. And when you proclaim this, I am here for the truth. And as soon as you see your mind start to lie to you, you can look at it and smile and say, oh, look, my mind is lying to me. It's giving me a story about abandonment. It's giving me a story about fear. It's giving me a story about not enough. And the beautiful thing about the truth is it will demand everything false from you. Everything false. And I encourage you, when falseness comes your way, can you respond with a gentle no? Can you respond by giving it silence and teaching it that there is nothing here for it, literally? There's nothing here for it. It's a beautiful thing when falsehood falls out of our consciousness. I want everyone just to reflect for a moment. See if you can join me in this. I want to be a little bit silly with this one. I want you to think back when you were a child. And I want you to think about like 6th or 7th, maybe 8th grade. And I want you to think about the clothing at the time. I'm thinking about the jeans. And there were the jeans that the cool kids wore. Maybe you didn't have those jeans. Maybe you couldn't afford them. I certainly didn't. I certainly didn't have them. And I want you to notice how at one moment in our history, this clothing label was the most important thing to us. Or maybe it was our hairstyle or our makeup or whatever it was the most important thing in middle school. And if you give it lots of time and space, which we've all done, and you look back and you just smile, you're like, you would never even have that thought. Because the truth has burned it up. A spiritual maturity has burned it up without any effort at all. You just look back and you're like, Jordache jeans, like, I'm not wearing a pair of Jordache jeans. Like, I don't need that. I don't need that. I think Jordache were the ones that the girls wore. Prince might have worn them though. He might have worn some Jordache, but I love Prince. But anyways, Benetton, something like that. That was like a clothing company. I can remember that the rich kids had that I didn't. That I didn't. And if I look back, it's like I can't even remember the last time I had that as a thought. And you see, the truth sets us free. It sets us free out of confusion, out of chaos. And for some of us as adults, it's I wanted to get into a certain graduate school. I needed a certain job. I wanted to have a certain partner, lover, whatever. And the truth will show you what the truth is. If it's the truth for us to go to this school, we got in. If it's not the truth, we didn't get in. And that is God's will. And on the path of awakening, we can ask ourselves, what are we waking up to? There's a lot of people who want to wake up to just feeling good all the time, which, again, that's a fair desire. It's just not the truth. Awakening isn't about feeling good all the time. Awakening is about being free of likes and dislikes, free of desire and aversion, free of falsehood. Chris is writing, I'm here to rest in being. Beautiful. I hope we are all resting in the quiet depth of what we are. The quiet depth. When you see The Bachelor, when you see The Bachelor, we're not resting in being. We're in some kind of part of us that's wanting to be entertained by someone else's drama or fairy tale or confusion or chaos. In order to rest in being again, we have to say yes to that which is ever present. Fortunately for us, The Bachelor is not ever present. The Bachelor is something that comes and goes, comes and goes, comes and goes. And for those Bachelor fans out there, forgive me. I don't mean to pick on it. I just see it like pop up on the whatever the home screen of the TV is. They'll show the Bachelor people, and they always look so golden. I think they have just lights around them. And they've all had spray tans, or they've all have this golden light on them or something. Like, look at these people. Look at these confused individuals. Their families are looking at them saying, what in the hell are you doing? Like, why are you going on TV thinking you're going to find love, making a fool of yourself? It's not where we find love. Not where we find love. And I think a lot of those folks are looking for fame is probably what they really want, or they want to be seen. So this is when our unconscious forces lead us. We might say, oh yeah, I want to be in love. But what they're really thinking is, oh yeah, I want to be on TV and I want to wear that dress and I want everyone to see me looking good in that dress. And I'm somehow competitive, and that's about what I know about the show. So I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that. Johan writes, freedom, freedom, freedom. Yes. If we want to be free, are we willing to surrender our overthinking, doubting mind? Are we willing to surrender this and allow ourselves just to look around and to notice that there's immense space here, immense peace here, the radiance, the love of God is here. Can you see that right now? Can you feel that right now? Or are we saying, I'm feeling abandoned. I need you to see me, hear me, love me, treat me a certain way. For some of us who struggle with doubt, we can't be free because we're busy having these arguments in our mind. But if we want to be free, we have to say, I give up on the mind. And I look at the space of freedom in which my doubting thoughts arise. My doubting thoughts arise. I always love that. Just stepping into freedom and then just seeing just this silly thought, a confused thought, an anxious thought. And it's like, oh, look at you. Look at you. Look at you. Look at this one. This one coming with a story that I need to figure something out. You know, there's a lot of people that won't open into freedom until they first know. You know, all these esoteric things about the mind of God. And it's like they have these list of things they need to know first. I like what the Buddha said. The Buddha called these things the unanswerables. We won't know the mind of God with our thinking mind. But if you give yourself permission to put down the thinking mind, there's a funny thing that happens. A different mind comes forward. A different consciousness. And from this consciousness, we begin to get to know the mind of God. We'll never fully know it, of course. But we begin to see and experience directly. There's so many people, they do this thing where it's almost like they demand God shows them the mysteries of the universe before they're willing to open and trust. And that's not how the path works. We're invited to trust first, to open first, and to allow the truth to reveal itself. And that might take some time. Kyle writes, I'm here to learn how to be a humble conduit to the light of the divine grace, to serve this. Yeah, that's beautiful, Kyle. I'm here to learn how to be a humble conduit. And so we become a humble conduit through allowing our mind to be empty and through doing our healing work in the realm of ego. You know, I've seen a lot of people, this is mostly around churches, but I've seen a lot of people in churches who are showing up as a humble conduit. But then, you know, as soon as they're given a task they don't want to do, or they have to make friends with someone they don't like, you know, we had this thing at our church. This is back when, you know, there's this big George Floyd, you know, riots and protests and this and that. And, you know, this guy came into the, like the church cafeteria, and, you know, he had a hat on, like a cap, you know, he was this old fella. And, you know, one person had on the shirt, you know, Black Lives Matter, and his hat was all lives matter. It was like the two of them were so grumpy and angry with each other. And it was like, guys, we're at church here. We're at church. We're washing dishes, for, the Thanksgiving brunch or whatever it is. Like, I've been at so many church functions, but it's like, guys, relax, like relax, take the hat off, or, like just chill out. Like, don't, like, what's going on here? Like, do we have to make a statement about everything? Like, can we just show up and be empty, empty, and empty, and see, of course, Black Lives Matter, of course. And of course, all lives matter, of course, of course, of course. But can we not fight? Can we get along? Can we smile at the absurdity of tribalism? Can we smile and laugh and be a humble conduit? But if we're full of ideas, if we're full of arrogance, if we're full of pride, if we're full of I'm better than you, it's like, or I'm worse than everyone. It's like, we can't be this conduit. If we have a big shadow, I had some friends, and they were spiritual teachers, and these two young fellas, and they were offering retreats, and in between satsang, they were inviting a bunch of different ladies at different times on the retreat back to their room. And it's like, guys, what are we doing here? Like, what are we doing here? Are we being humble conduits of the divine? Or, are we being the fox in the hen house, like, or in the chicken coop, however you say that? Like, are we being the fox? Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing? And so it's important for us, if we want to be a conduit, if we want to serve God, to make sure we are empty inside, and make sure we don't have big gaping wounds, big shadows. I I had this friend. He was a real old timer, and he we used to go to these. We used to be a part of this Buddha Sangha, and he'd always be like, "Hey, Craig, you want to meditate, for 12 hours?" And I'd be like, "Let's do it, let's do it." But I'd watch him. He would go to that, to the Buddhist group, and he was like looking for his next girlfriend, and I was like, "Hey, man, like, what are we doing here? Like, I'm here to meditate. You're here to meditate and to get a date, And I'm like, let's be clear here. Let's be clear. Let's not pollute our intention. Let's not confuse things. Let's not get ourselves in trouble." Okay. Yeah. Blair writes, "To be free of the burdens of falsehood that I carried too long." Yeah, amen. 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 And this is a great question for us to ask, is like, what is it within me that I'm believing that is not the truth? What is it that is limited? And so if we take a moment and just ask this question, like, what is it within me that I'm carrying that is not the truth? What is it within me that is false? This is a great question to ask. At any moment on the path, if we find ourselves stressed, let us ask this question. What am I carrying here that's not actually asked asking us to carry it. Like so often in life, we carry all kinds of pain from our mother, from our father. Sometimes as empaths, we're like sponges. I had this same thing that Blair and Justina were bringing up. This, I live in the country. I'll see roadkill, and I'm always praying for the animals that get hit on the road. I'm praying for the animals that I see along the road. Like, God, lead them in a different direction. Lead them off the road. Off the road. But there's been times when I've seen, I'm on the edge of these big Indian reservations, and, we have this term for a dog, and I hope this isn't politically incorrect. It might be, but it's just a res dog. It's a dog that was born on the reservation, and they just kind of run wild. They run wild. And out here in the deserts, we have these groups, these packs of wild dogs that run. We have packs of wild horses, which are so beautiful, by the way. But we see these packs of dogs, but a lot of times they hang out by the road. And occasionally one of those little dogs will get hit. And I'll feel that pain. And sometimes I'll just carry it for like a couple of hours. I'm like, no, I want to support this dog. Like, going to heaven, I don't need to carry its pain. I don't need to carry its heartache. It's good to grieve. It's good to cry because a tragedy happened. Like, that's human. We need to acknowledge that. That's compassionate. But we don't need to carry it. And some of us, like, I've carried my father's alcoholism, even though I don't drink at all. And so it's like, I don't need to carry that. I've carried my older brother's pain of him, being a soldier and being in so many different wars, in the last 30 years. And it's like, I don't need to carry this. And sometimes I'll carry the pain of my children. It's like, okay, when we see this, can we let it go? Can we give it back to God? Can we wash our hands of it and say, okay, let's be done. Let's be free. And let's open ourselves to our beauty, our goodness, our radiance. Okay. Anne writes, I am here to open my heart to the light of love. How about that? Anne, is your heart open to the light of love? Come on, give me a big yes. Give me a big yes. Give me a big yes. Yes, I'm open. She's giving me 2 thumbs up. Yes, I am open to the light of love. Of course you are, for love is your nature. Love is all of our nature. And so we want to be open to this. And the light of love, like love is a very tough path, because love will ask us to forgive. Love will ask us to be compassionate. Love will ask us to choose the light. When darkness comes our way, often in this world, when there's darkness that comes our way, like, we want to run, in fear, or we freeze, or we fight back. And we're being invited here, from our friend Anne, to choose love, to choose light, to choose this higher road. This higher road. And so we might look out at the world and say, oh, the people who hurt me are hurting. They are hurting. But I'm going to send them love anyways. Even though they hurt me, even though they caused me pain, I'm going to send them love anyways. And so love is a very difficult path. Very difficult path. Okay, let's hear from Kyle. Hey, Kyle.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
So, I'd love to start meeting with clients, have a private practice, doing spiritual counseling. Um, but I majored in philosophy in college and not marketing. So I'm
Mhm.
wondering like how to bridge this gap of learning really practical small business skills, um, social media skills with living from my heart and working with clients one-on-one.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you said that last part because I was going to slap you in the face and say, "What is this, a marketing class?" Like, what's going on here? I was like, "Where's he going with this question? Where's he going?" So you said in a heart-centered way, in a heart-centered way. Yeah, yeah. And so, Kyle, we live in this internet age, and this internet gives us an opportunity for all of us to share our truth with the world. And I'll ask you a question. Is the truth within you? Is it worth sharing?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's worth sharing. It's worth sharing. Yeah. And I'll be the person who asks, are you willing to put your money where your mouth is? Like, are you willing to believe in yourself, to support yourself? So to see marketing as this act of you supporting you supporting you. That marketing is a way of you connecting your voice, your presence to those who you will one day serve. And so, in a sense, it's an act of love and it's an act of faith in yourself. But it's also an act of love for those out there who will benefit from this heart that you have, this heart that God has given you. And so I encourage you to see this as an act of service, an act of connecting. And, it's just a game that we have to play, here in the internet age. I mean, we can try just to put out content without marketing, but, sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. For most people, it doesn't work. They have to market. I'm talking to myself right now, too, because it's like, I'm a terrible marketer. But one thing I do know is like these platforms, like say YouTube, it's free for you to use, it's free for you to offer. So you just put your content out there. In a sense, like your voice is being shared with the world, but we need the world to be able to hear your voice, to see it, to help them, like the people who want to hear your content. We got to find a way for that connection to happen. Now, marketing might be one tool, but also, I fully believe in just sharing your heart and really working on sharing your heart, getting comfortable sharing it with the world. And when you see that your heart is good, you see, okay, yeah, it's worthy of, some advertising money, or it's worthy of a social media campaign. And the thing that's so nice in the modern age is we can all market for free all day long. And you see me making content all the time. And I do it as an act of love to the people I'm serving. I don't need to be seen. I don't really like to be seen. I like to be anonymous. But I do this as a service to myself out there walking all about the earth. And so I'm talking to myself. I'm talking to the aspects of me who don't feel loved, who feel lost on the path, who are wanting community, who are wanting connection, who are wanting something deeper than The Bachelor. It's just like The Bachelor. It's like, how much marketing did those guys do? And they created, this, I'm going to call it a hit show. I don't think it's a hit, but a lot of people think it's a hit. And they found it because it was marketed. Because it was marketed. Now, me, I met my teacher just purely by the grace of God. It was before the internet. So I just met him because God connected us together. And that's a beautiful thing. And you'll find that. You'll find that God will connect people to you. But you'll also find that the whole world is on this internet thing. And there's 10, trillion websites on the internet. And if there's a way for your website to be found, there's a need for your website to be found if you're going to have a successful business. And so, marketing is a way to support this. And so I want you to see it as an act of love from you to you, an act of faith where you believe in what's here within you. Do you believe what's here within you is good?
100%, yeah.
100%. 100%. But the old internet marketing thing was just like put out content of really high value. That's the best marketing. Do your best work. That's the best marketing. Be a good man. That's the best marketing. Because then people, they'll be around you all the time. All the time. Like I have so many people asking for my attention. It's like, I can't get to them all. I can't get to them all. And the world needs you. The world needs your voice. The world needs each of our voice. And so I'm going to encourage you to have faith in this. And to not, the mistake that I made, and I bet it's a mistake you're making, is we create this dividing line between advertising and just sharing your beautiful content in the world. And we say advertising is bad, it's false, it's from that old phony 3D system. And there's a truth to that. There's a truth to that. Like I really don't like advertising. In fact, I'll pay money, at different times to not hear advertising because it drives me so crazy. But we have to remember, like, what you're going to advertise, I assume, is something really good, really true. And you'll see that as you send it out there, it may be a lifeline for some individuals. And when we see it in this way, we say, oh, okay, maybe I'll play ball here. But if we see it as like just a way to, support Mark Zuckerberg having a bigger yacht, it's like, well, he tells us all, that we need to do our part for climate change. It's just like, what the hell's going on here? Like, what's the hell going on here? And so you have to be careful, with your mind, dividing the world into this is spiritual and this is phony. Like the biggest, most successful churches, they have a great marketing team. The biggest, most successful spiritual teachers have a great marketing team. And so at some point, it's just like, like in the olden days, if you wanted to do therapy or counseling, like you had to have an office. Like you had to have an office, just like something you have to do. It's part of running a business. And so anyways, so we can talk more about this, you and I, but this is a good question. But I want you to look and I want you to see if there's a way you put a dividing line between this is a spiritual life and this is the worldly world, and I don't want to be any part of this. If you're going to do business in the world, we have to say, I am willing to engage with the world. And like Jesus said, I can't remember what the hell Jesus said, but he said, give unto Caesar what is Caesar's. It's like there's some rules here on planet Earth we have to follow. There's a number of folks, a small number in the Sangha right now, who don't want to follow rules, who say, no, I'm not going to have a job. I'm going to be homeless. I'm not going to pay my bills. It's just like, that just doesn't work out. It doesn't work out to live in this way. It doesn't work out. We have to follow the laws of the land, or there are big consequences. And the consequence of, not marketing is, well, the internet will probably see you as irrelevant unless you go viral. And so you have to look at that. Like, am I going to, hit the jackpot and go viral right away? And that has whole other complications. Like I've known a lot of young men who've been spiritual teachers who went viral, and they became too big, too famous, too quick, and they couldn't handle it. And they got themselves in a lot of trouble. So anyways, I don't want to get too much into that. Good to see you, Kyle. Let's hear from Johan. Hi, Johan.
Hey, Craig, can you hear me?
I certainly can.
Okay, so yeah, you were just talking about dividing line. Sometimes we put dividing lines between things.
Yes, let's be clear here. Sometimes everyone is putting dividing lines between them and God constantly. And because of that, it puts us in a state of samsara. It closes our heart. It confuses our mind. We're always making these dividing lines. When we come deep into the hara, well, now we're in a place of non-division. And so I just want to acknowledge this. It's like, if we're in our head, there's going to be dividing lines. If we're in our emotional heart, there's going to be I like and I don't like. When you come deep into the heart and you've worked through all your fears and all your hopes, we look out at the world and you see the beauty and the majesty and the terror and the confusion as God. The worst things that happen to me and the best things as God. And you see it this way without a thought, without any philosophical orientation. You just see it as such. And so, forgive me, Johan, I interrupted you.
So, yeah, I think my question is around, is there a certain degree of psychological healing that needs to happen for some individuals before being able to open to because I was just saying dividing line.
Mm-hmm.
So just before satsang, I was I picked up a book again, No Bad Parts, an IFS book.
Sure.
And I started reading it, and then there's something within me that started having aversion towards that. I was like, no, I don't want to like a fear, putting a dividing line between doing parts work and psychological healing and like spirituality, like if it was a different thing, and like afraid
I
of.
don't want to make a dividing line, or I have made
Well,
a dividing line.
there has been a dividing line within me, like like
Yeah.
a fear of getting just too involved in psychological healing and
Yeah,
trauma.
Johan, I'll say this. So a couple things, like the way I teach just has this overarching emphasis on healing and on awakening. And I've said this many times. We can awaken at any moment on the path. I've seen people wake up in the most effed up, confused aspects or situations in their human life and their human psychology. I've seen people wake up, boom, like that. I've seen schizophrenic people just boom, they wake up. I've seen deeply traumatized people, boom, wake up. And then they're in the state of great freedom. And then very shortly, because they are not healed, because their psychology is a mess, their psychology comes forward and says, hey, I need your attention, Mr. Awakened One, Mrs. Awakened One. I need your attention. And this is how it should be. Like we need to heal first, because if we don't heal our psychology, we will not be a stable or fit container. You know, a little bit ago, I was speaking about what Kyle said. He wanted to be a humble conduit for the divine. I want to be a humble conduit for awakening, but I cannot be an awakened being if I have a massive shadow and I have tremendous turmoil within me and confusion. And if I have a shadow and turmoil and confusion, parts work is a great thing. Parts work is a great thing for almost any reasonably confused, neurotic human being, which is 90% of planet Earth, is just like lost in some level of confusion or hope or fear or sadness or grief, or critics fighting with judges and fighting with the inner child and fighting with the teenager inside, the rebellious teen. Like we have all these different voices inside of us, but once you've done the work in a deep and full way, all those voices implode and become one voice. One voice. And when you have one voice and you wake up, it's very easy to stay awake. But if we're awake and we have a critic and the voice of our father and the inner child, and then like the voice of our mom and our ancestral trauma, it's like, and they're all fighting for your attention. It's like, hey, we got a big mess here. And we kind of have to take care of these fires first. I like to do them both at the same time. Like that's how it was for me. Is like I was always working on awakening. And then at some point I realized I can't maintain this awakening. It won't stabilize because I have too much chaos and confusion in myself and in my outer environment. And the outer environment was actually a reflection of the chaos inside Craig. So I dedicated myself to doing healing work, again, on the path of awakening. And I found, these things mutually support each other. And in a tantric sense, it's like it all needs to be worked through. It's all God. It's all healing. It's like when we work on anger, we discover our power. We discover our voice. We discover great discipline. We discover great compassion. Well, compassion is a quality of awakening. So it's like, okay, these things are obviously like, they go together. They support each other. They build upon each other. They grow and they evolve. And so there's this thing that I say, as human beings, we need to get over our core wounds. So whatever that core wounds are, so whether it's unworthiness or, doubt or anger or fear or addiction, we need to get over those core wounds. So we need to do a tremendous amount of work on those things. So when we look inside, we don't look inside and say, damn, there's a tremendous amount of trauma here. We look inside and say, I'm pretty good. Pretty good. I call it just getting over the hump. Over the hump of our traumas. We've done tremendous amount of healing work. I laugh a lot when I meet with a therapist, because I've met with a lot of therapists who've never been in therapy before. And I'm always like, what the hell are you doing being a therapist? Like, you've never done like a year course of weekly therapy? They're like, no, I did like 6 weeks once, and I thought it was pretty good. And then I did a couple weeks here and there, and it's like, that's not enough. Like, you need to do like a year of weekly therapy, bare minimum, and to get to know yourself. And I'm just using this as an example. I don't want anyone to think that that's like a blanket prescription, but it's like, let's show up weekly, spending an hour getting to know yourself, healing your wounds. I mean, hell, I had anger with my father. I worked on this for 15 years. And it wasn't like every week for 15 years, but it was a lot of work on this. A lot of work on this. And so you feel big chunks of karma fall out of you. And inside, what's the internal experience of healing? You will feel empty and more awake, and like you have more energy to be aware, because your energy is not in division. Like, one of the things that Freud taught us is we have this super ego here in our throat chakra, and it's busy fighting and doing battle with all these forces that he called the id, but it's, all the different parts of the self, if we want to do, use IFS language. And it's like, okay, so we have this internal war. When we have this internal war, it's very hard to be awake. But I can tell you, I've had it happen a lot of times. I've had people in my office. When I first started practicing, I worked with a lot of people with this diagnosis called borderline personality disorder. And so this is when the psyche is deeply split. And so I have these women come into my office, and they would, boom, have this massive awakening. And they would start saying, I'm awake, I'm awake, I'm awake. And, I would just sit there and hold space for them, and I would gently smile. But I would know, like, hey, we got some work to do here. Like, being awake is great. But, like, they'd come back the next week. Well, I got in this fight with my boyfriend and the police and this and that. And I'm like, where's the I'm awake? Where's that? Where's that one? Where's that one? Is there any aspect of that one here who's awake, who can work with these parts that are all split and confused and suffering? And so these two things are mutually supportive. But if we don't take care of the core wound, it will just sabotage and sabotage and sabotage our awakening experience. And, I see it far more than I would like to. I see a lot of people who show up with a very sophisticated mask, where they're wearing this mask of I got it together. And they're unwilling to take the mask off and look under it and say, I'm here because I'm suffering, and I lie and I manipulate, or I get angry and I want to kill. And it's like, okay, let's talk about that. But let's talk about it from a place of love, from a place of healing, from this recognition that this is not you, but it's something you're identified with. And let's see if we can support you in healing it all with love. And as we heal it with love, in the place of that mask, and in the place of that trauma, well, there's kindness and there's compassion. And, like you and I have spoken a lot about doubt, but I want you to imagine having a mind where doubt cannot exist. The same way I was talking earlier, and I was like, do you remember like the pair of blue jeans, like the label of that company that we thought was so important when we were in the 6th grade. It's like we couldn't even think about it now, to think that that was anything important to have these kind of genes. Like it would be so utterly, like, absolutely irrelevant. We would never even have that thought. But I want you to imagine that with doubt, that doubt could not arise in a mind that's undivided. Okay, great. How do we get there? We might get there through some IFS. We're going to get there through a lot of love. We're going to get there through listening and allowing these parts to kind of fight and wear themselves out. We're going to question these parts. We're going to do inquiry with them. We might let them sing, and have a sense of, bhakti yoga. And you see that out of the confusion might come this true voice. And when the true voice is there, you see, oh, okay, like this is my guiding light. This is my anchor. This is my lifeline. This is the thing I'm holding on to and building up. And building up. So I can tell you, like when I was young, I used to go see my teacher, and I had all this chaotic interpersonal drama within me. But I would hold on to this vision as Craig just being this great monk, like a great wise monk who lived a very simple, serene life. And so I held on to this vision in my mind. And then I looked at my life and I looked at my own human mind, and I had so much chaos and confusion. And I said, I need to go to therapy. But when I was in therapy, I didn't question therapy and say, is this spiritual enough or is this or that? I just saw therapy as a tool. And whether it was just regular therapy, Jungian therapy, whether it's IFS, whether it's Carl Rogers therapy, which is basically just like listening, and allowing yourself to be heard. Massage therapy, cranial sacral therapy. I met with all kinds of like coaches, new age coaches and healers. Like it was all helpful to some degree. But I want to invite you just to find something that works and dive deeply into it. But the mistake that someone makes with doubt is, like, I get this sometimes where people get real excited, they'll schedule a session. And then like by the time, it comes for the session, like they're not even there. They're like, hey, I want to cancel the session. I'm just going to be a Buddhist instead. And it's like, most Buddhists in the United States have figured this out. As Jack Kornfield said, such an excellent job of blending psychotherapy with the teachings of mindfulness and calling it Buddhism. And it's a very healing path because it heals the psyche, which makes us ripe for awakening. And so, Johan, I hope there's something good here. But I want to say yes to all of it. Can you wake up without healing? Yes, you just won't stay awake. And eventually your shadow will come forward. And that's something that just happens here on planet Earth. Like God is inviting us to realize the absolute, but God is also inviting us to evolve. And if we don't evolve, God will put great pressure on us. Great pressure. Like Kyle just a moment ago is being pressured into looking at, like, does he fully embrace the world? The world of business. If he's going to know that there's a seat for him at the table of life, and he's saying, I want to give, okay, beautiful. Do we also know how to receive? Because if you see spiritual teachers, myself included, who give, what happens? They become burnt out. They become burnt out and they realize, oh, I need to learn how to sit back and receive. I can't just continually give, because that gets a little neurotic. And so we are here to heal. We are here to grow and evolve. And all of it supports this primary intention that we are here to awaken. And so, thank you, Johan, for the question. It's a beautiful question. This is what my whole path has been, an investigation of this question, and continues to be because, awakening can be absolute, but we have these relative bodies, and there's always new things coming at us. Like the the thing that I'm having to let go of, where I'm realizing, like, hey, Craig, you're 50 years old. You're not 22 anymore. Like, you can't, be, acting like a 22-year-old on a skateboard. Like, you can't, you got to let go of that. Like, your body doesn't heal as quick, Mr. Holliday. You can't go to jujitsu every day. Like, you can't do that. You can't hang out with cage fighters all the time. You can't do that. Y'all are like, this is crazy. But it's like, we all have our growing edge. We all have our growing edge. God's teaching me every day how to talk to women, how to listen to women. Because I'm at a house full of women. It's just like, okay, I grew up in a house full of boys, and it's like, now I have just all women. It's like, okay, these are the wants, the needs, the desires of women. This is how you support girls and women. It's like, okay, I'm learning about this. And as I learn about this, it creates greater level of sanity and stability and peace within me, in my human experience. And when my humanity is peaceful, it's easy to rest in being. But when my humanity is being told all the time that it's wrong, or that I'm doing it wrong, and I don't know why, start to be like, what am I doing wrong? Like, what's going on with these girls? I don't understand them. What do I do? But when I learn to work with them and what they want, what they need, how to support them, then the humanity relaxes, and it's like, oh, there's great peace here. Inward and outer. So I hope that makes sense. Yeah. Johan, beautiful question. So lovely to be with each of you tonight. Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om Tat Sat Hari Om. May you all be loved. May you be blessed. May God's grace support us as we continue to walk this path of healing and awakening. May all beings be free of suffering. Okay, so much love. Good night, everyone. Good to be with you.